And we are live. Patricia, before I start, I will be speaking a little bit of Arabic, and then, of course, we will switch to English. Um, مشاهدي برنامج المنصة، مرحبا بكم مرة أخرى. نحن عودا على بث وسعيدين جدا أيما سعادة إننا نكون موجودين معاكم اليوم. اليوم معنا في الحلقة 14 ضيف مهم جدا، زي ما شايفين الشعار الموجود في في الشاشة حاليا، اللي هو كيدز فور كيدز. دي منظمة مهمة جدا، اشتغلت كثير في دارفور، وكان عندهم نظام كده بيعمل اكسشينج. عارفين انه الناس في مناطق او في اوقات صعبة جدا في مناطق حروب، كانوا بدوا الاطفال اغنام كمشاريع كده يشتغلوا فيها او يكون عندهم يعني. وبعد ذلك كان بيدعموا التعليم، وبرضه كانوا بيدعموا حاجات كثيرة جدا في دارفور. وتم توقيف هذه المنظمة أو المدير بتاعها يمكن لمدة 9 سنوات في أثناء الحكم السابق، وإلى الفترة بتاعت بعد مش بعد ذاك هي بدأت تشتغل، ورجعت السودان قريب في 2019. لذلك نحن سعيدين جدا نحن معاها اليوم، وهي معانا على المنصة. الشيء الآخر يكون عندنا تداخلات معاكم، لكن إن شاء الله تتداخلوا معنا بشكل كبير. وهسه في الوقت الحالي أنا حقوم أقلب for English, so we are able to speak to our the one and only Patricia. And before we speak to Patricia, of course, I will be introducing the program itself. So we're very happy to have Patricia today on our platform. But before we start, as per usual, just a quick intro about the program. It's a platform for dialogue and also a space to discuss issues that related to Sudan, particularly advocacy, and charitable work and health. Especially over the last few weeks or so, we've been concentrating on raising awareness and with subjects such as COVID-19, and we're glad to have Patricia today because we will be focusing some of our questions toward this area because she has a great initiative that's ongoing at the moment. We hosted in the past people from London, people as well from Sudan, doctors and from the medical profession, to talk to us about ways to dealing with COVID-19 and raising awareness as well. So I hope you guys who are listening today are safe and sound, and we will be wishing you all the best, and of course following up with more program. Back to our regular schedule, Patricia, we are more than happy to have you today, and it's an honor actually. And before we start our questioning, I'd like to give you a space to just greet our audience.
Assalamu alaikum. And I'm so sorry that Mafi Arabi, please forgive me. But I could hear that Osama was talking about Kids for Kids and about our goats and our donkeys and our healthcare and so on for Kids for Kids. It's extraordinary to me to think that we have been running, or I've been running Kids for Kids now almost for 20 years. That when I first went to Darfur, I was so shocked at the way that I saw children living there, and shocked that it seemed to me so obviously practical and simple, the sort of help that one could give people to provide sustainable development. And no one was doing it, not the international community, not the government of Sudan, and not the NGOs. And so I came back to England and asked friends to help. And since then, we've been supported mostly by individual people who really care for children, care for humanity, and care for justice in terms of the rights of a child to water. It shocks me that 20 years later, children are still walking up to 20 miles in the summer for every single drop of water. It's inexcusable. And it was starting from something as simple as that. There are now 100 Kids for Kids villages, and we are helping over 500,000 people, almost over 500,000 people. We've transformed their lives, and it's an extraordinary thing for me to think that that's what we've been doing.
It's great, and it's an honor to have you today, Patricia, and thanks for that beautiful intro. We have many people that are listening and will be listening even after the show is ended. But I'm quite key for our new listeners and the people who are not aware of your organization. Actually, a little bit of intro, just to tell us about uh, how it starts, the organization starts, because you are the founder and the CEO as well. So two kind of two in one for us. Um, so to tell us about the kind of the inception of this organization, and also the connection, where did the connection came with Sudan and with the
It's a very personal question, and it's a story, I suppose, of children. My son became a diplomat, and 20 years ago, he was in his first proper job, full-time job, working for the Foreign Office in the UK. So working at the British Embassy in Khartoum. And I went over to Khartoum to celebrate his birthday and to paint. I'm an artist. And but I've always done as much as I can to help those less fortunate, and particularly children. And so I said when I was there that I'd like to see how children were living, because it was obvious to me, even in Khartoum, that there was terrible hardship. And I was taken out by Alistair and, in fact, the then head of Save the Children to Darfur just to see what was going on. I had no intention of starting a charity. It didn't occur to me. I've done that before in this country in terminal care, and I had a very full life. But when I went to Darfur, it was March in 2001. It was already drought. It should have been the spring of the year, but it was already drought. And people were walking. They were walking either on their own footsteps in the sand or on donkeys, the only transport. There were no roads in Darfur. And we were 90 miles bouncing across the sand in a 4x4. And we came across something I will never forget, the sight of a little 9-year-old walking across the deserts of Darfur with a big jerry can. And we bounced across to him and thought, are you lost? And he said, no, he wasn't lost, but he was walking for water. He was walking for 7 hours to a hand pump, and he was getting every single drop of water that his family needed. And I was completely shocked. How could any child survive the heat of the summers of Darfur? And I thought, what sort of a mother would allow a child, a little boy, to be expendable? How could he survive? So I asked to see his mother. And she was camping away from the village. She was camping in a dried riverbed in a wadi, because she had 3 precious possessions beside her children. She had 3 little goats. And the goat's milk was keeping the little boys alive, but his water was keeping the goats alive and his brothers and sisters, his younger brothers and sisters. And I realized, because under Darfur, I don't know if you know, there's the largest aquifer in Africa, if only you can afford to dig for it. And nobody was. Nobody was providing hand pumps in villages, and they are still not providing hand pumps in villages all these years later. It's absolutely outrageous. And so I thought what I would do is come back and somehow find the money myself to provide a hand pump in his village. But when I talked to his mother and found the importance of goats, I realized that actually I had to do more than that. And the money that maybe I could have found to fund a hand pump, maybe I should use to do more than that, to raise awareness. And in fact, I then went to the village, and we sat with the community, but particularly the mothers and the younger girls. And I was shocked to hear that, for example, there is no healthcare in villages. And when I said, well, how does that impact you? What's the worst thing that means? It was the young girls, actually, that was a shock too, who said they were so afraid of childbirth, because the only help they would have in a village was a traditional birth attender, and that would mean rope delivery. I leave you to think about that, rope delivery, if there is obstructed labour. I was absolutely appalled. So it seemed to me that I should obviously see what I could do about providing hand pumps, providing goats. There was no veterinary care, so you have to have some trained veterinary care, because you can't provide animals unless they're looked after. And obviously we needed to see what we could do about healthcare. So within the 5 days that we were in Darfur, I already had a project. And we got back to Khartoum, and I said to my son, look, I think I ought to pull some people together and see what we can do about this. And he looked at his diary, and Alistair said, well, we could have lunch here on the 8th of March, 2001. And that happens to be International Women's Day. So the 8th of March 2001 was when I launched Kids for Kids to 19 very influential ladies in Khartoum. And that's how it started.
That's very touching story, Patricia. Um, I've got quite a few areas that I would like to touch today, if we may, and if times allow. Um, and we are, before we start this interview officially, as we were talking in of the record, let's say, we're talking about COVID-19 impact all our lives. And I was quite glad to see, to come across over the last few weeks or so, an appeal. And that appeal actually was put by your organization or your organization. I'm working on it, and I think that I captured the title. It says um, "Soap to Combat COVID-19." So, could you elaborate a little bit on this appeal and the timing of it?
What Kids for Kids concentrates on is sustainable development. We're not an emergency organization. After 9 years of being refused permission to go to Darfur, we at last were able to go in February. And when I was in Darfur, it was obvious to me that there's going to be severe malnutrition in the villages of Darfur. So I came back to this country determined to do as much as I could to address malnutrition in the villages. It is serious, and so that was my aim. But now we have the pandemic, and everybody has said here that children get it mildly, but actually children who are malnourished succumb easily to any infection. So the first thing I did at Easter was to launch an appeal for goats so that more children could have goat's milk, and for chickens so that the frail elderly could have eggs. So we launched that appeal. But the more I thought about what is going to happen if, as Sudan started to announce cases of the virus in Khartoum, I actually thought, I don't see how this can be stopped from spreading in Darfur. I've been to hospitals in Darfur. In fact, I went to one in February in the remote rural regions. There are only 8 in the whole of Darfur in the rural regions. And we went to the big hospital in Malit. And I have a photograph, I don't know if you've seen it, of one of the doctors there. There are 3 doctors with the one pair of stethoscopes that she has. And it's damaged. I have to replace stethoscopes for them. They have no oxygen testers and so on. So the thought of the hospitals having ventilators or staff able to use them or oxygen is a pie in the sky. That's not going to be possible. There is no healthcare that people in Darfur can rely on. So what can you do? And I lay at night wondering and fearing and thinking of all the children I'd met and all the people I'd met and how could I help them? And of course, we're all advised, and I hope your listeners are doing this. They have to wash their hands with soap properly. It's the one thing that actually we are told categorically will break down the virus. We have to wash our hands. Now, in Darfur, people can't afford food, so they can't afford soap. So we have put out an appeal, and please look at our website, for 5 bars of soap for each family. It won't be enough, but it will start. And we have already provided soap for 8 villages. Another 10 villages, soap is on the way. I am desperate for as much soap as people can donate to me. Not actual soap, I need the money because the transport to Darfur, as of course they'll appreciate, is incredibly expensive and very difficult. And perhaps I don't know if your listeners know, but in Sudan at the moment, fuel is at a premium. People can't find it. So to get deliveries is really difficult. It is not easy working in Darfur, but we have to. I don't mean I must do my best. What I mean is there is no alternative. The only treatment for COVID-19 in Darfur and in the rest of Sudan will be to teach people how to wash their hands properly. And that is the essential. So I'm asking for people to donate £20. It's not very much, which will provide, would you believe, enough soap for 10 families. To give me soap for one village is £380. Think of the lives, people would say. It's probably the most urgent, most heartbreaking, most life-saving appeal we could make. And please look at our website. Look at the links we've got in there. Please read about what you and I can do to save children, to save people, to save families. And it needs to be done now. This is urgent. So Osama, for you to ask me to make this appeal now is we are talking life and death.
Yes. Yeah. No, that's thank you for that appeal. I think it's as you rightly say, Patricia, it's a responsibility of all, and I've heard, of course, to most of the governments around the world are talking about we are all in this together, and there's different organizations as well. And for me, I don't think so. It's a time for people to stand and become a bystanders, or just watch it from far. I think we all need to do our bit, either by raising awareness or raising money, that extra pound here and there, to make the difference. And I think what we will do, Patricia, as we talked before, we'll make sure that we'll have our page linked to your page, and also some of the direct donation websites, I think, also related there, because then people can do their bit too. Um, in terms of you've mentioned early on, of course, you've been away from Sudan for a long time, and you've just made the journey, I think, back in 2000, late 2019, I will say, or it was 2000, February, so like a couple of months ago. So how was, personally, how was the feeling when you went back, and also the reconnections that you have with the people as you've gone back to change Sudan?
Summer, I have to say, my best friends are Sudanese. And actually that makes me very sad, because here in the UK, there have been virtually no support from diaspora, and therefore I have no friends that are Sudanese, or very few that are in the diaspora here. But in Sudan, in a way, I was slightly dreading it, because I guess there would be quite a number of people would want to say thank you. By the way, I must warn you, my cat is just coming in. She's telling me it's her supper time. But what was amazing was going to the most incredible thing. Oops, I could move her. Sorry. Was going back to the village of that little boy. His name's Ibrahim, and we went back to Umjal. It's the first time I'd been to his village for 17 years, because for a long time it was the middle of violence, and it was just impossible to go. And then, of course, I've had these 9 years where the government wouldn't give me a visa at all, the previous government. And I actually said, I suppose there'll be, 100 people? That's an awful lot of people to meet, 100 people. In fact, it still makes me sort of gulp now. There were over 1,000 people in that one village. And that I've been able to say to the people who support Kids for Kids, because this is not just me personally. We have, wonderful supporters who've supported us for years. I've been able to say to them that if ever anybody had any doubt, that the simple things that we provide, mosquito nets, blankets, a goat loan so that people the mothers can have a livelihood, water, healthcare, midwives, first aid workers, very basic things, that it really means a lot to people. They waited a long time in the sun, those 1,000 people. Well, it was more than 1,000. It was overwhelming to be greeted by them. And then, of course, what blew me away was meeting Ibrahim. Ibrahim survived. Ibrahim is now 6'3". He's tall. He introduced me to his wife, to his mother, who I sat with all those years ago, and to his children. And do you know, children are now at my kindergarten in his village.
Wow. Wow. As you're talking, of course, what I'm doing, Patricia, is I'm showing the video of you meeting Abraham and his family, which is quite a story.
I had sunglasses on because I was crying. I mean, I'm welling up now because it was, I've always said that if I had the privilege that Kids for Kids helped just one child, that to be able to do that is amazing. I can't take in the numbers of people that Kids for Kids has helped, but to see that one family and to know that he has grown up healthy, he's had goat's milk to drink, his mother's been able to have a bit, better livelihood. We've been able to put a kindergarten in his village and a health unit. It's amazing. And the young men are staying in the village. They're not becoming refugees. They're not leaving the country. And this is actually a very important message to everybody, that if we can enable people to stay in their homes, they won't become refugees across the world. And that the sight of, I'm sure that many of the refugees that we've seen struggling and who've been killed on their journey have been from Darfur. There are 100 Kids for Kids villages, but there are 900 villages, or over 900 in Darfur. I need every help I can get. If we can adopt more villages, we will help people to stay in their homes, to be stronger, to survive.
Yeah. So while we're talking, of course, people are sending their comments and their greetings. So I will make sure that during the break, or as we are ending, we'll pick up some of these names and we'll mention them, and also I guess some people from your organizations as well, because I can see that some of the links are already being put in the comments, so that's quite interactive, which is great. um back to questions, and I know you guys are, of course, NGO, non-political, and what have you. I wanted to know whether any. Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Because we're not an NGO.
Okay.
We don't do the work. We don't implement the projects. We train people. It's the villagers themselves who do it. We are working directly with villagers. We are working with volunteers. We only pay 2 people in Sudan. Oh, and a cook cleaner. So 3 people all. It is the villagers themselves, the village leaders. They are volunteers, and they are not the sort of volunteers that most people have in Sudan who get incentives. I'm afraid I absolutely refuse to pay incentives to anyone. We don't.
No, that's a very good comment, actually, Patricia, because that's a mix up you always get, and I think clarifying that's quite important, so people are knowing exactly the identity and the kind of the mission statement and the type of work that you guys do over there. My question was about, you know what do you guys do any other supports in terms of, you know community work with regards to when it comes to peace, when it came to um, peace resolution, resolutions of different, so this sort of programs. I know that we know of KitKat in terms of all this help that you guys do to this project, but I'm just wondering if there is other stuff that you guys as well do that we don't get to hear about as much.
Oh, I suppose what you're really asking me is what are our plans for the future if things go well with the current government, with the civilian government. We've been, I suppose, very fortunate that we've worked side by side with state ministries. I've made absolutely certain no funds have gone directly to any government organisation. But for example, the State Ministry of Health has always shared the training of our village midwives, shared the cost of that. You can't work in a country, it would be arrogant to try and work in a country without working with the people who are running it and with the people who are living there, doing what people themselves say it will help them best. So I've always tried to listen. And one of the hardest things, and it's been such hard work, is maintaining the projects when I haven't been able to visit Darfur myself. It was absolutely proof that somehow I seem to I don't quite know why, but I seem to be able to identify the ways to help people, because there's something very charming but so frustrating about the Sudanese, that people won't
Yeah,
ask.
please tell us. That's very important to know.
You don't tell me what it is you need. So what I have to do is to say to people, please tell me about your life. And when I hear about how people live, I can then say, well, for example, if the water is, 10 miles away, and you're having to go with jerry cans, would it be helpful if we provided water carts in your village? Because I know how life is lived in Darfur. You have to offer appropriate things that will suit the terrain, will suit the life, and so on. And so I can say, would this help you? On the way to Umjal, I saw that mainly the women were there trying to weed the unforgiving desert. And the rakes they were using were metal rakes, but they all had broken teeth. I mean, 2 or 3 teeth left, nothing. They'd obviously used these for years. It's obvious. We provide farm tools, but we've never provided a metal rake. We will now, because I have been there. I've seen it. No one's told me that's what they need. They just accept this is the way of life. Well, I don't find that acceptable. I am determined to improve the way of life for people because it is unforgivable. So that's how I work. But of course, we have to work with whoever is there, whatever is possible to make things happen.
Any other organization that you guys work with or come across with, or that is kind of that's the
Well,
remit?
I've tried working with international organizations. Frankly, we had to give up. We worked first of all with Save the Children, then with Practical Action. But actually, when you actually analysed the administrative cost that I was being charged, it came at one project was 74%. Well, I'm afraid I'm not going to waste donations on paying 74% administration. No way. I save money. You are filming me in my house, which is where the office is. It should be my studio, but that saves us money. I'm not. I want to buy as many goats as I possibly can, and now, of course, as much soap as I possibly can.
Yeah. Um, one other one other question that I have in this area is that and I know the term was not was quite foreign perhaps, is the pull power, or the ability to talk with other let's say celebrities, or to with other people, to try to get them to work on campaigns, or promote something so other people can see it. And I actually come across a couple of videos of Joanna Lumley, who's I'm a big fan of course, because I do watch a lot of programs and documentaries in Channel 4, so in ITV. So yeah, so that just wanted to know, the work that you do with others to promote the causes.
Sudan, I've done a lot of interviews, so people sort of know me in Sudan. And I luckily was able to talk to Prince Charles about Kids for Kids right at the beginning. And so in Sudan, that I think has been a bit of a help at the start. But yes, you having celebrity support is amazing. We have just launched a fun thing. I invited Joanna Lumley to draw me a goat. Here is my goat, our logo. Well, here is another version of our goat.
Nice.
And here is Joanna Lumley's version of our goat.
Oh, yeah.
Now, if you look at our website, we've just put it up, I think yesterday. We're inviting children to draw a picture, or Joanna is inviting children to draw a goat and send it to me. And we're going to put it up on our Drawn to Darfur page, which web page, every picture. And then they can win, look, beautiful cuddly goats. The first prize is a big goat, a smaller goat, and a little kid. And of course, the second is just the mummy goat, and the third prize is the little kid. So, gorgeous. And these are for children. The competition is for children aged 12 and under. I thought during the virus, while children are locked in, mothers need a bit of help. It will give them an afternoon off, I hope, while the children do their best pictures. and fun for them to see their artwork on a website. And of course, there will be a link to what we're doing for the virus, but we'll keep our fingers crossed. But there's no fee, there's no charge for entering the competition. So I hope everybody's children will enter. It would be fun, but that's Joanna Lumley doing it for us. She's been the most fabulous patron, but we have a number. We have a number of fabulous patrons.
I want to know about because from also previous and from all the work that you've been doing in the whole, I've seen there are emphasis as well in terms of supporting schools and education. And I just wanted you to take this opportunity to tell the audience or our audience a little bit about the passion about this particular area. No, in Sudan, in kind of yeah.
And what has been shocking, and I'm sure you will know, is that 98% of women in Darfur are illiterate. If people are lucky, the eldest son will stay at school, but they can't keep them in school for very long. And I've got many photographs, you may have seen them on our website and so on, of local schools, which are literally a rakuba. The girls kneel on a sack, if there's a sack, you know, there's something they can kneel on. Otherwise, the boys are kneeling on sand. The teacher has a chair and a blackboard. That would be primary schools. There's no village has a kindergarten. Now, you and I know that the earlier you can go to school, the better in terms of learning. If you start late, there is very, very little chance. And it's a particularly difficult chance in Darfur because children have no childhood. As soon as they can, they are put to work. Look at little Ibrahim, whose whole job was, a man's job was collecting the water for his family. You know, what childhood was that, to do that day in, day out? What we're doing is we are building kindergartens. As we've already got 9. We've got 5 that are about to be finished. And we're trying to build a kindergarten in every one of our villages. It makes a massive difference to their chance of seeing education through. And of course, if they're in a Kids for Kids village, the mothers will be able to pay for education, for the school education. And I have to say, when there's a kindergarten, the people themselves are wonderful. One mother who saw the benefit of goat's milk for her children, how it transformed their health, literally every day takes excess milk into her little local kindergarten that we funded for children who have had no breakfast that day. I mean, people are amazing. They share their benefits. This is what's so fabulous about working with people in Darfur, that even the smallest thing you do, they will maximize.
Yeah, one of our co-hosts or the people who are running this Facebook page just pulled actually a tweet from I think January 2010, I think, for Kids, and it says that Darfur need us this year. Let us have fun helping some kids. Any ideas? And there was a website as well. So it's of course just pulling some of these things from back in the days. I think that now that's 10 years ago, or and a bit more as well. So
Then we've got more villages every year.
yeah, in terms of, I'm just from a statistics point of view, and just to help our viewers understand the kind of few areas that you help, and the whether that's in terms of the area or the numbers of schools that you or in terms of villages that you are helping. Um, do you have a target, like in each year you'd like to go up by this number, or we would like to do this much help, or how do you come up with this? I'm sure there's plenty of team that people that helping to reach your goals.
It's a hugely important question, that. My aim is to adopt as many villages as we can possibly afford. I'm getting older, So it's terribly important there's a succession to me. So we have got quite a healthy reserve, because I think it's going to be jolly difficult replacing me when it's, the red bus comes along. I hope it's not the virus. But we do have a reserves policy, which we must maintain, because one of the things that absolutely horrifies me is organizations who offer help to people, raise their hope, and then find that they can't fulfill. So at the beginning of each year, we work out how many villages we can adopt during the coming year. It's been very difficult recently, because you'll all know of the massive inflation in Sudan, which that's why there is so much malnutrition in the villages. This mostly we adopt 5 villages a year, and we have strict criteria as to why we adopt a particular village. This year we've adopted 8 last year we adopted 8 because I knew the needs were huge. This year it's been 5. It depends on our funding. If I tell you, in fact, you mentioned 2010. The last time I was in Sudan was 2011. And we had a big workshop and invited all the villagers to come to us so that I could get as much information as I possibly could from all of them. And one man stood up and he said, I first asked you to adopt our village in 2006. You didn't adopt it until last year, 2010. He said, listen carefully to this. He said, every year, children died from malnutrition-related illnesses or malaria in my village, 2006 to 2000. And then he said, since you adopted us in 2010, not one child has died. Now that, if there's anything more stark about how important it is to introduce sustainable projects to villages, like we do for Kids, I don't know of anything. Now, that's why I go on. That's why I have to work all hours. That's why I stay awake at night worrying. What can we do? And we need to encourage other people to support it. And if other people won't do it, we have to do it. It's appalling, the conditions in Darfur. I don't think there are worse across the world. Osama, that's why it's so important that you're talking to me today. Oh, I've lost your sound.
Yeah, and it's a pleasure as well for our people. It's absolutely a pleasure for our people to be able to talk to you today, and having this interactive discussion. As I said, as I was asking the questions, there are some questions have been asked by other people as well. So I will actually go to the questions from the audience and try to bring them in. There is Sonia Miley from Wage and Peace. Sonia, hello, good evening. I hope you are safe and sound where you are. So Sonia, I think, picked up on something that maybe you've mentioned early on, which was how can Sudanese diaspora in the UK get involved with Kids for Kids? Do you accept volunteers? So if you could elaborate on that, that would be great.
Sonia, Wage and Peace is wonderful. That's a great question, Sonia. Thank you. Yes, it's very important. I need people to. I find it difficult. This sounds silly. I find it difficult asking for money. The way I do things is to ask people to raise awareness, and then I believe that with the goodness of their heart, they will donate. We've tried very hard to get goods here and to send them out to Darfur. That doesn't work. It's far too expensive. We need to source things locally. If people could get groups together, raise some funds, together. We lend 6 goats to a family for 2 years, raise money for, have a fun gathering when we can at long last. Maybe, do some fun things now. We need money. We need money urgently. There is something else that I'm actually needing, and this is on a very important level. It is time for me to get somebody to work alongside me and perhaps even take over as CEO. And if somebody is interested in that, we will be advertising for a job sooner rather than later. So, you know, that would be, if somebody could be from Sudan, I'd love it. That'd be terrific. Man or woman?
Exactly. Equal.
Really, so that'd be
Yeah.
Sudanese here. I truly would.
No, definitely. You mentioned something so in the same subject, Patricia. You've mentioned something quite important, which is the help from the people here. I'm talking about, you know, there are a large community of Sudanese in diaspora, and of course, we are here in the UK. How do you feel in terms of the help through your organization, at least from your own point of view? And please be honest here.
Oh dear. Yes, you have to pause. When I first came back from Sudan in 2001, I felt it would be the Sudanese who would help me. And I approached as many as I could find. The Doctors Association were very good to me. They were full of praise. They invited me to their conference and they presented me with a pen. Full stop. And I'm afraid I gave up beating my head against a brick wall. And so I have done very little in recent years in approaching the diaspora, because actually perhaps people are helping other people elsewhere or something. I don't know. But no, I haven't received help from the diaspora.
Yeah. Okay. Now that's anyway, today is the platform.
But now perhaps.
Yeah, as well.
Time. We are facing a pandemic. The world is at a problem, and Darfur is desperate.
Absolutely. So another question that I will take is from Khansa Muhammad Khansa. Hello, Khansa. Good evening to you, Khansa. She said, ask Patricia when did the organization started. So she answered actually early on, but we can say something because he said, I remember clearly there was a fundraising event for Kids in 2005. Everyone knew about the organization back then and was amazed how an idea can make tremendous difference in people's life. Thank you, Khansa, for that question, and I'll let Patricia talk about it.
Well, I'm afraid I don't know which event that was, Hamza, but yes, we do put on quite a number of events. It's the way of raising awareness and raising funds, of course. And we do have annual events, actually. We've just cancelled our ambassadors ball, which we have in London, which has been a great fundraiser and a hugely good fun. And we have a Christmas concert every year. We even have a fishing day because my other half taught me to fish. So anything that would be fun, that people will enjoy. I believe that you shouldn't wear a hair shirt, that you should enjoy yourself. We're very privileged, but I think to have a wonderful time and to share our assets, our wonderful life is really what we should all be doing. We've cancelled the ball, and I am going to be writing to people to say, let's have a non-event. So maybe people could do this. Have a non-coffee morning and say to people, if you can't come for coffee, please drink one at home, have a virtual coffee morning, and please donate a goat, donate £20 for some soap. That'd be fun, you know.
Absolutely.
Use Zoom is great. Your virtual coffee mornings, you know.
Definitely.
Yeah, so I'd love to see people.
Definitely. So we took another question from Muhammad Ishaq. Muhammad is the head of is a Secretary General of the whole Union in the UK. He said hello, and he said, "What is your organization's current situation regarding children within IDP camps, especially after the political change in Sudan? Are you free to move and to access?"
IDP camps are a huge affliction across the country. My heart goes out to families who are stuck in them. Thankfully, bear in mind that Kids for Kids cannot possibly be political. But what we found, which is wonderful, is that where our villages are doing really well, many families, IDP families, are asking the leaders of the villages. I don't interfere in this. Ask the leaders of the villages to go and move there. And where the villages are doing well, they actually invite them there. And I am really proud that in some there are now 5 different tribes. Many moved from the IDP camps. And what we do, the village leaders will come to us, and we will then provide the goat loans, the farm tools, and so on, the assets that will help them settle in the villages. But I wouldn't, as Kids for Kids, go to an IDP camp and say, come to a village. It's up to the leaders. This is their right. What we have done, the government has settled 2 villages called Abu Sinayat Alf and Abu Sinayat B, and we have adopted those this year. And I can't tell you, I went and visited them in February. I visited Abu Sinayat Alf. And it's the first time I've been in a village where people were angry. And they were angry with every justification because they had been provided with the village, but with no assets. Women had no cooking utensils. So for the first time ever, we're providing, they'd been there a year. How they were surviving, I do not know. So we are providing jerry cans, we're providing kitchen utensils, things that we haven't done elsewhere. But that's the joy of Kids for Kids, that we can be flexible. We respond to needs, when we know them. So although we wouldn't establish a village, where there is a village established and where they ask to Kids for Kids to adopt them, we will do our best. And the more funding we have, the more villages we can adopt. I'm looking to employ somebody else actually in Darfur to work with my little team. And this is a big move for us. But I think it's something essential because we do need to adopt as many more villages as we can. And frankly, with the new government, they want to work with us. And in fact, I saw the new Minister of the Commissioner of HAC in Khartoum while I was there, and he had done his homework. I was very impressed. He knew all about our sustainable projects. And he said, when I next go back, which I pray can be October, but of course with the virus we don't know, he'd like me to talk to the newly licensed NGOs and talk to them about how to actually implement sustainable projects properly. And I'd be honored to do that.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely great, Patricia. There are I try to diversify the comment a little bit so we are keeping everybody there. Omar Dafallah is commenting rather than asking a question. Omar say, very interesting. Your input is growing now in Sudan. It's very appreciated and also participation and assisting families to create their income sources to build their lives. You made the future for them. God bless you, Patricia. So that's from Omar Dabala. Um, and many others, of course, are saying the same thing with regards to your organization. That is, Kids for Kids are doing great for people and wonderful. I'm thrilled to know that. Please extend my respect and appreciation to Patricia and Kids for Kids team. Of course, we know there is a whole team behind the work that that kids are doing, and we'd like to send them from this platform. Of course, our thanks and our great appreciation. Um, there was a question with regards to for me. I think the people that you've mentioned earlier on that you're looking for a successor or someone to come and take over at some point if you would like, if we may. Um, Have you thought of documenting your life, Patricia, in a book? Maybe I'm not aware of it. Maybe if there is outside there, I maybe haven't come across it yet. But I think it's an important story to tell with regards to this connection with Darfur. I think uh, at least some people, maybe some Darfuris as well, consider you as a Darfuri. Just wanted to know whether there was a book or anything that is out there for you.
There isn't. No, I'm afraid I did start writing one. My son and I were captured by the SLA in 2005, I think it was. And I started a book that the sort of working title was Convent. I went to a convent school, Convent to Capture. And we had the wonderful Ruth Rendell, who sadly has passed away, who advised me how to write the book. So I have a draft, but there's no time. I'm running projects. I'm working far too hard. You say this big organization. I have to tell you, I have to give credit to my two phenomenal assistants, Sarah and Sage, who work part-time from their homes. They are absolutely fantastic. Sage is just recovering from the virus. She's in Brooklyn, in New York, with her parents. Her parents are recovering from it too, thank God. And
by the way, Sage has been very active in the comments there, so posting a lot of
Sage, you can see, Sage worked through her virus. She wouldn't stop working. I mean, really worrying. And we have the most wonderful volunteer, Mary Jane, who runs our US Friends. And she does the most amazing work. And she sadly too has the virus. And yet she's carrying on answering emails and so on. There's something about the people who support Kids for Kids, those who work closely with me and those who donate to us, who are totally altruistic, who care about humanity, care about children. And I'm privileged to know them all. There are great bonuses. It may mean many sleepless nights in worry, but I have so many bonuses of wonderful people who are just quite amazing. So, really, really incredible. So, yeah, to say thank you to them all is something from the bottom of my heart. It's a privilege.
There couldn't be a way here without mentioning this. We come across when I was looking at your amazing presentation. I came across a slide also, and I'm showing it now to people. And I think in that slide it said honoring Robin and remembering Robin Ratcliffe. I think it's mentioned that. Um, and I think there is a photo that's been put, and people are putting also they're standing near the photos. I couldn't not ask a question about this, Patricia. So forgive me, but I think it's something that it's a platform that we would like to mention here.
Well, I'm sadly, unexpectedly, my wonderful other half, Robin, died in January. And when I went to Darfur, it was quite extraordinary. They made this amazing banner which they put up in the office. It was quite extraordinary. And then in the villages, because Robin, I didn't expect him to. He was the man in my life. I didn't expect it. He started working for Kids for Kids, and has been amazing for years. And in Darfur, a huge honour. They've named a kindergarten,
Wow.
to him, and also a health unit that we've built. So very, 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 very special. But I have to say, it's extremely hard being in isolation on my own. But I have Kids for Kids to keep me going, and all the super people in Kids for Kids. So I'm privileged.
And
It's
and
very
also the many comments that are coming in, as I said, they all quite complimentary of the work that you've done. And as I said to you, they regard you already as a Darfuri or a Sudanese. So that doesn't come from from nothing. It's come from a lot of work that you guys have put in. Patricia, I think we are closing to our 55 minutes kind of, which is great. It's just time just flown as we were just speaking. I think I'd like to give you the kind of the last before thanking you. Of course, it's been personally it's been quite touching, and it's been amazing to be able to talk to you today. and I'm sure the same goes for many who are able to watch this live or of course afterward. And on behalf of the people who are running this page, and on behalf of our people who are listening now as well and commenting, I think I'd like to say thank you for giving us the time. And I'd like to give you the last chance or few moments to say a few words.
I I must be one of the luckiest people in the world to have the privilege of being able to have found a way to help people that my visit to Darfur really proved. It is the way to help people to help themselves to get their foot on the ladder to improve their lives in a region of the world that has been shamefully neglected by us all. And it's a privilege beyond words to be able to do it. The trouble is that we have 100 villages, but we need to be able to adopt so many more. Children need us now. I adore my grandchildren. Can you imagine being a grandmother and holding a baby and knowing that she or he is going to starve and you can't feed them? That's what's going to happen this summer. We have to help. We have a duty. We are so privileged, and I'm very blessed that I'm able to do it.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much for the kind words. And yeah, I think our mark is almost there, and I think going to end this with those nice words that Patricia put there for us, and we will continue, as we said, doing the work. Therefore, the organization, of course, is ongoing, and what we are going to do, say with just a huge favor by putting the links there, we're going to make sure to promote those links more and more, and to link the two pages together, so we have traffic from our page to the Kids for Kids page, Facebook page as well, because the majority of people now are using Facebook, so or social media. So that's another mean of getting into this. Before I leave, I think there was a organization team. I am from Darfur. This is Muhammad Wadballa. I am from what he says. Yeah, sorry. I am from Darfur, but sometimes I saw in my eyes 2003 during the conflict. It was incredible. And yeah, if there's any possibility, organization and team could be there. Yeah. So there are so many comments there. Please, at your own time, we'll send you the link, and you can go and
To email me, they're more than welcome.
yeah,
It's Patricia at kidsforkids.org.uk. So please get in touch. Remember, I'm on my own. I need friends.
definitely,
You've
Patricia.
been so sympathetic. Thank you.
And one other thing as well, Patricia, is that we are, as I always say, especially interviews that I enjoy. We say that. We do say that we will this is part one of the interview, so it's never kind of ending. So if you guys come across any we will have to, I think, to plug the appeal again and again, because we don't know how COVID, how things will change, because it's ever changing. The ball is rolling, as I said, so we don't know exactly where it's a snowball, so we don't know where it's going to end. So we will be able to come back to you and make sure that we are plugging and talking more and more about it. One other thing as well, at this platform, what we are doing on Saturday, for example, is we are hosting another medical doctor who work in communities and who work also in IDP camps. So, we will be raising awareness about, the importance of washing, what people can do in countries where the health service or the health systems are kind of in dire state, and there's a lot of things that people can do to um, with the means that they have to tackle the issues, or at least do a bit of prevention. So our next episode will be on Saturday on that. Patricia, I'm going to switch to Arabic for a few seconds before I end. Yeah, thank you. before we end this مشاهدينا الأعزاء، شكرا جزيلا لكم. الليلة كانت معنا باتريشيا باركر اللي هي CEO، وبعد ذاك هي المديرة التنفيذية والمؤسسة لمنظمة كيدز فور كيدز. لقاء عظيم، ومرأة كده اشتغلت يا اخوانا يعني حديدية، اشتغلت في فترات صعبة جدا، و يعني في كمية من الأسر هسه عائلة نفسها بيكوز المنظمة حقتها دي. نحن حنتقابل معاه في الأيام الجاية دي، نتمنى في الوقت الجاي. وهسه طبعا عندها أبيل مهم جدا، بتعمل صابون، عندها حاجة كده إنها هي بتجمع قروش بطريقة خيرية عشان ترسل القروش دي للمناطق النائية في دارفور، عشان يعني فيروس الكورونا دي يرسلوا صوابين وحاجات بيوصلوا بها اليدين، عشان يخلي الناس زي ما بقول تعيش في السيف سايد. فشكرا لكم. لقاءنا الجاي حيكون إن شاء الله يوم السبت، وحنعمل هوستنج لواحد من الدكاترة عشان يتكلم لنا عن آخر التطورات في كوفيد. لكن ال الكلام المتعلق اللي حيكون اللي عنده علاقة بكوفيد ده حيكون شوية مختلف، ما حتكون الحلقة بتاعت سؤال وجواب بس، لكن أفتكر كلام مهم جدا متعلق بأسئلة آه متعلقة بالمعسكرات والمناطق النائية يا جماعة، لأنه الحتة دي برضه والحلال والقرى وكده، إنه كيف نعمل النفرة المجتمعية، وكيف المنظمات والحكومات برضه ممكن تعمل النفرة المجتمعية للمناطق الأقل نموا، إنها تحاول، أو المناطق الصعبة جدا، إنه كيف إنها تحارب الكوفيد. فنحن إن شاء الله حنكون معاكم في الأيام الجاية دي، ويوم السبت حننزل التنويه. فلكم الشكر الجزيل لهذا الشيء. Once again, we'll switch to our English. Patricia, goodbye. Thank you very much. Stay well, stay safe, please.
And you.
Thank you very much. يلا يا جماعة, stay well.